Hello, guys, and welcome to Odds on Premier League Match Day 22 after the winter transfer market. Tom, do you think Chelsea have some spare change to sign us, for instance?
Well, I'm actually delighted to tell you right now that you've just signed for Chelsea. You don't know, but you've just signed for Chelsea. I've just signed for Chelsea. Everyone watching, look under your seat. You've just signed for Chelsea.
Well, Graham Potter is going to have trouble for sure to start the team, to find a good starting, to find 11 players because there are like 44 in the squad right now. So they are going to face Fulham, and it's the first game we are going to analyze. But guys, remember first, press the like, subscribe as you are doing. Tell us in the comment section what you think about the games. And now, Tom, let's go on with the show. €350 million. This is some money for Chelsea. For sure, they cannot regret not having money to build a good squad because they've signed everything in the market, and right now they are 10th in the standings, Tom, and the first game we have to analyze and to find good odds is Chelsea-Fulham, West London derby. We saw it actually only 2 weeks ago, and Fulham won that game. Was the last victory for Fulham. Since then, they lost to Spurs, they lost to Newcastle, but I think everyone is expecting what you have to say about this new Chelsea. They are absolutely crazy in the market.
I have no idea, to be honest, in terms of Chelsea. I mean, look, let me lay it out in a kind of looking ahead to this game terms, right? So here's the players that are not going to be playing for Chelsea this weekend, who they currently employ as footballers. Armando Broja, Christian Pulisic, N'Golo Conte, Raheem Sterling, Wesley Fofana, João Felix still suspended, Dennis Zakaria, Ben Chilwell, Reece James, Edouard Mendy. Now, maybe a couple of those players might come back in. That's the list I have this morning of players that they have currently got unavailable to play. Something might happen before the game. The players they've signed during the transfer window, where they spent however many millions of dollars. You look at Enzo Fernandez has come in a bit too late, I think, to play in this game. I don't know if he registered in time. João Felix, we mentioned, already suspended. Benoit Badiashile probably will play, so that's one. Of the others, Mudryk will probably play. That's two. That's probably it. So they've still got a massively injury-hit team. Despite this crazy investment, there'll be a couple of players there, I'll tell you right now, I haven't seen enough of to really tell you about at this moment in time. If you wanted to do a full analysis of Chelsea signings, I would have needed 10 days worth of effort and a lot more money. So there's no way we could possibly do that at this particular moment. But it seems to me they've got two players that are going to improve the 11 from their last Premier League game that will come into the team. And beyond that, every manager tells you, every coach tells you, it takes time to blood in new players into a new country, into a high-pressure environment. And right now, Chelsea is a high-pressure environment. It's one win in the last four. The game against Liverpool, their last game on the 21st of January, was a very dour game of football where only Mudryk really gave Chelsea a bit of attacking impetus. There's still questions about who plays up front, if anybody, who's on the left, who's on the right, who's in central midfield. You can see why they bought Enzo Fernandez, not for that ludicrous money, but who's going to play there this particular game, considering it might have been Jorginho. He's been sold. So who does that leave? Kovacic and, I don't know, Loftus-Cheek maybe? Or will it be Conor Gallagher? I mean, I honestly don't know. I cannot tell you right now who's going to play. And the reason I think that's really interesting is that Graham Potter, I don't think he likes this. You look at his two teams previous that we've known him to be in charge of. He does make a lot of changes to his starting 11, tactics, formation, but he's not someone that signed 10 players a window. Who have we got? What do we do? Is he incredible at blooding in 5 or 6 players at the same time? I don't know if anyone is. No one's really done this before, window after window. So right now, Chelsea are a complete basket case. It could work out amazingly well, or it could be a question of paying, I think I hear £75 million per season on these signings across the 8 years of their contracts. So what teams will do if they sign an 8-year contract is amortize that contract over 8 years. So by the time you get to year 7, if they're still at the club, it goes into that year's money. And so all this £75 million, £80 million, because it's so spread out, as long as your finances remain strong, you're going to be able to pay it. If they finish outside the European places and the Champions League places and do that for year on year, the strategy is hugely risky and the whole pack of cards could come tumbling down. So in terms of this game, I've no idea how they're going to play. Conversely, with Fulham, we know exactly how they're going to play because they haven't really changed a great deal all season long. At the moment, it's a fully fit squad, which is terrific for Marco Silva. It's a Diop and Tim Ream, seeing the preferred striking pairing. Paulinho in midfield. The only amazing thing to me at this point is that Chelsea didn't sign him because I think he's been the outstanding midfielder in the Premier League this season for Fulham. My only doubt about Fulham is they're now at 31 points, and they would have had it drummed into them pre-season. Get 40, get 40. Once you got 40, you are safe. And really, once you got 35, you're safe. So they're basically safe. So now it's a question of, do they push on? Can they push on? Are they capable of pushing on? I personally don't think so. I think they'll probably finish with another 12, 13 points from this season and finish a very respectable top half finish. And I wonder whether this might be the start of that turn. My only doubt is the fact that I don't know enough about Chelsea at this moment in time. But if I'm looking at things, I would suggest that there's going to be goals in this game. Why? Because I don't rate Chelsea's defence at this moment in time. I think Alexander Mitrovic, though, has gone a little bit dry at the moment. 5 shots on target in his last 5 Premier League games. 4 of his 11 goals have been with his head. Pulls off on Thiago Silva or Koulibaly or Badiashile. I think they'll cross to him and there's a chance. So look at the Mitrovic to score market. But I think both teams score and Chelsea win. Potentially Fulham score first and Chelsea go on to win. A revenge mission. And on the break as well, we haven't seen much of Mudryk. We've seen him a bit, in Shakhtar, whatever, but I've not watched him a great deal. But what we saw against Liverpool, pace. How quick was he? And he's going to be running, I think, on the other side. They're not going to put him on the Anthony Robinson side. They'll put him on the Kenny Tete side. Running at Tete, running at Diop, running at Ream. That could be issues. So I'd be looking here for both teams to score. Maybe Fulham score first, but Chelsea win in the end. The most common scoreline in football is 2-1. That's what I'll be going for.
We saw this on the 12th of January in Craven Cottage, but Fulham won that game. Beautiful odds, actually, for both teams to score, around 2.0. For Marco, this is a banker for Chelsea, but we have Tyson, for instance, telling us that he's going for a Fulham double chance. It's going to be interesting to see this new Chelsea in 2 weeks. They have the Champions League against Borussia Dortmund, and in the Premier League, they are 10 points away from the Champions League spots. So they have to wake up as soon as possible. And on Saturday, we have also a new team, let's say, or we have to analyze the new Everton, of course, with Sean Dyche. Lampard is gone after the defeat against West Ham. The run of fixtures for Everton actually was awful, only 1 draw in the last 7 Premier League games, and unlucky for the new manager, they are going to face the best team right now in the Premier League, Arsenal.
Yeah, and it's Liverpool next week as well for Everton, so not a great start for Sean Dyche. Look, Frank Lampard had to go. We had to go probably before this. I think that if they'd have done what everyone thought they should have done, sacked Frank Lampard in November, hired a new coach in December, and came back in December and January with a new coach, with a new game plan, there may have been a chance for Everton. They've left it so late to bring in Sean Dyche, who I think is the right man from what's available, by the way. They couldn't sign anyone in January. So looking at their January business, the only significant thing is they let Anthony Gordon go to Newcastle, but not replaced him. It's staggering. It's incredible. Like, if you're going to choose between the manager and bringing in some players, I think you go players. You go players because the players are the ones in the end that will make the difference. And even a really poor manager can be helped out by better players. Would they be in a better position right now if they spent £100 million on 2 attacking players, someone to play wide and someone to play up front to replace Calvert-Lewin, who doesn't seem like he's coming back to anywhere near what he used to be? Get the players. And in the end, they haven't done that. And so you've got Sean Dyche has come in. I think it's a good manager. He's already got them running in training. It would get them sharper. It will get them working. And those that believe in him will spill their guts on the field for him. However, a couple of the players in the team, Dwight McNeil and James Tarkowski, did spill their guts for him last season. And they got relegated pretty much under him before he left in April. So I don't know. I really don't know. I think they'll likely go back to 4-4-2, the kind of 5-4-1 that Lampard has been shanking for 10 months. I'm glad that's over, but deficiencies all over the squad, not a great deal of strength. And if they got relegated, which I'm still edging towards they will at the moment, I think only really Amadou and Nana of those that are playing would get a move back to the Premier League. That tells you a lot about the strength of the Everton squad. And you've mentioned their form. For Arsenal, the concern is what we've been concerned about all season when they start losing members of that first team. We already know Gabriel Jesus continues to be missing, but now Thomas Partey is missing from this game. His backup, Mohamed El Neni, is also missing. So Jorginho might get a first start in central midfield. Now, I'm not one of those people that has a big negative vibe about Jorginho. Like, I think he's a good footballer, and some of his first-time passing and reading of the game is very, very good. But he doesn't move. Like, he doesn't move very much. And that's true of Casemiro as well, to a point. So it's not a criticism per se, but it depends on what team they're playing in. And in the Arsenal midfield, it moves. It's constantly motion in that midfield. And Jorginho's not going to do that. So bringing him in, good player that he is, changes the way Arsenal play fundamentally. I'd be happy to play against Jorginho and Xhaka as opposed to Partey and Xhaka, because Xhaka then has to do a different job to what he's been doing recently, which is all-action man midfielder. So there are some issues there. But that being said, it's all about Arsenal here. They're the better team in every department. They score goals. Nketiah is in terrific form. Nketiah and Saka have both scored in 3 of their last 5 Premier League games. Martin Ødegaard, 4 assists in 5 Premier League games. The defence is still very strong. The goalkeeper is still very good. I think you're looking here at Arsenal win, obviously. How do you make some money out of this? I would go Arsenal win and Everton do not score. Even though Sean Dyche has come in, they still don't score many goals. Just 15 in the Premier League all season. So I don't see them scoring. I don't see them winning. Double up an Arsenal win with Saka and Nketiah or both to score. You can get Saka and Nketiah both to score without a result at around 15-1. Now, I really, really like that. Arsenal win, pick one of those two, or go with the double and forget the result.
Indeed, and Everton, they've been very poor playing at Goodison Park, very nervous for Marco, also anytime scorer for Eddie Nketiah. And we have a couple of comments, Adam and someone else, I think Viper, also thinking that perhaps Everton could get a draw. Very optimistic, I guess, if you are from that side of Merseyside. But the normal thing, of course, is Arsenal taking the points. If Everton is in danger in the bottom 3, same for Leicester, really in danger, only 1 point above relegation. They were able at least to draw against Brighton because they were coming from 4 consecutive defeats, but unlucky for them as well. They are going to Villa Park, and this Aston Villa is working 10 points out of the last 12.
Yeah, and I think the interesting about Aston Villa right now, you know, it's a really good run of form they've been on. It's 3 wins and 1 draw in 4. And I think what's interesting about this January transfer window, some of us thought, I maybe thought that, they might really invest here and try and have a go at this season. They haven't done that. Why? Because I think Unai Emery came in to essentially get them away from the relegation zone, 28 points, nowhere near it now. They're only about 8 points away from staying in the league, if that. So that's over, the conversation about Villa getting relegated, but also the gap to Brighton 31, Tottenham 36. I think it's going to be too much to make up as the season goes on. So I think they've kept it dry. They're going to see out this season with a few good wins, a few good performances. And in the summer next, I think that's where you're going to see Unai Emery get some money to build his squad, plus some more high-profile departures. They're moving a few on. They're getting a few out of the club. Danny Ings, for example, a big earner. He's gone to West Ham, so that's gone. They brought in John Duran, who's a decent player from Chicago Fire, the Colombian striker, but they'll try and blood him in towards the end of this season. Much more Watkins than Ings. They obviously chose a style of striker they wanted to play. So that was really interesting to see them do that this window. So with Aston Villa, I think it's all about next season, which does leave the door open to games like this, where Leicester City, they're desperate, absolutely desperate now to start getting points. It's been poor all season. Once again, in the transfer window, no particularly significant signings that I think will really improve the first team. Tete from Lyon, maybe, but is he better than Harvey Barnes? I don't think so. You know, a little bit like moving around the deck chairs on the Titanic for Leicester. Nothing has really changed. It's all about getting James Maddison fit, get him in the team. That instantly lifts Leicester up all around the field. And it looks like he is going to be fit for this game. But of course, we just don't know at this moment in time with James Maddison whether he's going to be fit or not. How's this game going to go? Well, if Maddison's in the game I think Leicester are in the game. Maddison scored 3 of his 7 Premier League goals this season from outside the area. So if they get it to Maddison in a bit of space outside the area, top corner. That's the game plan here for Leicester. Get a free kick, get it to Maddison, see what he can create. Looking forward, there'll be no Jamie Vardy. The replacements for him, Iheanacho, I think, scored in the Cup last weekend, or Patson Daka, not very good. So it doesn't really give you a great deal of options for James Maddison. Maybe find a through ball to Harvey Barnes to score. So if Maddison plays, Leicester in the game. But Villa, there's just a positivity around Villa right now. They won this game 2-1 last season. As I always say, it's the most common scoreline in football. I'd be looking for that again. I think Villa will win this game. I go relatively low scoring. I wouldn't be surprised to see Villa win it 1-0. Villa to win 2-1 is 11-1. I really like that, but I don't recommend exact score betting. Feel free to go for it with low money, but I don't recommend it. I would be looking for Villa to win this game. Oh, I want to say both teams score, but I don't know about Maddison. So I'd be looking Villa win a low-scoring game. Maybe go the under. Go under 2.5, Villa victory.
Good odds for Villa to win, 2.0. Millie is a bit more cautious. Aston Villa Asian Handicap 0. You can check up, of course, the lineups before the game in Oddspedia, and you know if Maddison is going to start or not. So you can, for instance, place a bet on both teams to score. And we have similar odds for Brentford to win at home against Southampton, now bottom in the standings. No League Cup final for them. They are only 2 points away from salvation because everything is very packed. So there is hope still in the south of England. But this one is going to be tough for them. Brentford, for instance, at home recently, they beat Bournemouth or Liverpool, and we know they are tough.
Yeah, the Bournemouth result is what I'm drawing on here, because against the big teams, we know Brentford turn it on. Against the mid-level teams, the lower-ranking teams, the struggling teams, they struggle to break them down. The thing is with Brentford, if they score first, you beat them. Like, that is about Brentford. If they get the first goal, they will win this game. So if they do get the first goal, I'd be very confident they go on to win it. So check out that market. There's no particular improvement to the squad over the January transfer window for Brentford. Couple in, couple out, but nothing particularly significant. So it's what it was previously. And Bummo and Tony and Norgard in midfield and all the kind of the ballparks, the hallmarks even of this Brentford team that we've all come to know and love. Southampton, they have understandably gone a little bit for broke during the transfer window because they are the worst team in the league. And I think that the table doesn't lie. Nathan Jones has been given some options. I like Mislav Orsic. I think that could be a really wild card signing. You can see him going on a little run of goals if it happens. Not seen a great deal of Paul Onuachu. They brought in from Genk, the striker, for 20-odd million pounds on transfer deadline day. Sulemana in midfield from Rennes. I hear good things about him. So a couple of new players could come into the team immediately and improve Southampton. We will see. I've not seen enough of them to make a judgment call as yet. But if they can come in and make a surprise impact, how do you beat Brentford? You score the first goal and defend well. That's what you do. I think first goal wins this game. I can easily see it being a quite drab draw, by the way, 3.5 to 4. 1-1 draw. It screams 1-1 draw, frankly. If you saw the Wolves game at Brentford a few weeks ago, I can see it being quite similar. So I'd be looking here for Brentford to score the opening goal. If Brentford score the opening goal, they do not lose. If Brentford score the opening goal, they win. The only scenario that I can see currently is a James Ward-Prowse free kick. So I'd be looking at the James Ward-Prowse free kick market, James Ward-Prowse goal market, but Brentford win a low-scoring game. But don't discount the draw. Double chance Brentford's interesting.
All right. Tony, at least one shot on target. Millie is suggesting. Even Tony could be a good idea. You like this market? Always.
I don't know about that. I think it's going to be quite low shots. I don't expect many shots. I mean, if they get one, it'll be Tony, sure. But I think you've got to make it 2 shots if you're going to try and make some money. 1 shot on target from the striker, bit pointless, really.
Well, Viper Adam also going for the draw, so this could give us good money. And the next game, the bookies place really favorite. Brighton. Is Brighton Bournemouth? Of course, Brighton, they should be favorite, but 1.3 is like almost Man City odds to beat Bournemouth. We know that they are about to fall into relegation because they are in an awful form. A draw against Forest was the last result, but before 4 consecutive defeats. And unluckily for Brighton, Tom, they are not playing a Liverpool team this week because otherwise they would beat them.
Yeah, I mean, they do often beat the big teams and a bit like Brentford, struggle against the strugglers. Brighton's home form this season is actually not great. At home this season, just 4 victories from their 9, 3 defeats in that time. Lost to Aston Villa a couple of weeks ago at home as well. So there are some doubts there about Brighton, but Bournemouth are the worst team away from home in the country this season. So that will give them some hope. How does the game go? Well, look, Brighton will dominate possession. They'll have 60, 70% of it. I think Bournemouth made a couple of interesting signings. Hamad Traore from Sassuolo, I think, is quite an interesting player. Antoine Semenyo from Bristol City, big striker, might give them a bit of physical presence up front when Kiefer Moore's unavailable. I still don't see it with Bournemouth, frankly, staying up. I still don't see much of a team there. But, the thing is with the January transfer window, when we get to this point, is that we've made our assessments now of these teams. Then suddenly a player can come in and change everything. A striker comes in and scores a 10-goal run, changes everything. If someone comes in and scores 10 games in a row for Bournemouth, they've got every chance of staying up. But I don't see it currently. All you can see is Brighton going on to win this game. How do you make some money from this game? Well, I'd certainly be looking at Solly March and Kaoru Mitoma, the wingers who have been exceptional in recent weeks. Solly March, 9 shots in target, 5 games. Mitoma, 6 goals in 9 appearances. And what about that winner against Liverpool as well? I mean, outstanding, so good. I'm amazed Chelsea didn't buy him. I think you look at the Brighton market. I don't see Bournemouth scoring. Brighton win this without conceding. And look at the Mitoma market. How many goals will he score? How many goals will he create? Alexis McAllister comes back into the team as well. So it's an exceptional midfield for Brighton in this game. I would look at the Mitoma to score. Mitoma to score twice is 13-1. But look at the Mitoma scores. Brighton win. Bournemouth don't concede.
Okay, we are seeing right now Brighton to win 2-0 is 2.2. Viper is also going for this one. Adam says Brighton to win and over 3.5 goals. This is riskier, probably, but that's over 3.5 goals is a lot of goals. Brighton really favorite for this game. Next one, Man United Crystal Palace. Actually, the odds for Man United to win are higher than Brighton to beat Bournemouth, 1.45. We have Man United qualified for the League Cup final. We have Eriksen out of the club. We have Savitzer out of the club. No, out of for injury. We have Savitzer back to the Old Trafford, and I'm surprised to see everyone actually shocked by Casemiro's performances. They are rediscovering Casemiro, Tom, a player that, of course, I love. How do you see this market for Man United? They spent a lot of money already in the previous one in summer, and how do you see this Man United Crystal Palace?
Well, on the Casemiro thing, I think the interesting thing is that people were questioning whether a midfielder who doesn't move can play in the Premier League. And I still think that's quite an appropriate conversation, an interesting conversation. I went to the game at Selhurst Park a couple of weeks ago between these two teams where he got that yellow and he missed the Arsenal game. He was the outstanding player on the field by quite a distance. But as soon as Palace brought on Jeffrey Schlupp, he just ran past him. And so all he could do then was start hacking people down, which he's done for years. But it's really interesting to see it in the Premier League because only really Jorginho I can think of top of my head, maybe Milivojevic to a point. Midfielders in the Premier League who don't get up and down, don't run and can't get up and down. They're quite rare and they're rarely successful. So I think that's what makes the conversation about Casemiro really interesting. I don't think it's going to be that interesting in this game because Crystal Palace are on terrible form right now. Got a couple of draws, including against Man U with that last-minute equaliser by Elise. But apart from that, it's 2 points in 4. It's a real slide of results for Crystal Palace. Their first-team coach, Sean Derry, left the club this week. Don't know the reasons for that as yet, but usually it suggests some new ideas are required from Patrick Vieira, who looks like he's having a bit of a second season syndrome at Crystal Palace, who might get drawn back into it. Going forward, who impresses you at Crystal Palace? No one really going forward. Odsonne Edouard or Jean-Philippe Mateta, not sure they're the required quality. In the January transfer window, Sambi Lokonga will come in and do a very similar job to Decore in that midfield role, essentially replacing Milivojevic, whose knees have gone. So, I don't know about Palace right now. I think Elise and Eze and Zaha blow hot and cold at the moment, more cold than hot. Nice moment, but they miss stuff and there's no central striker. Here, all you can see is a Man United win. I mean, the form has been terrific. Plus, they've been really good, as they used to be, as they made their name, really, in running over the flat track, bullying the flat track. And look at some of the teams they've beaten, solidly but unspectacularly. Wolverhampton Wanderers, Bournemouth, beating Nottingham Forest in both Carabao Cup games. Of course, the Man City win was very impressive, so they can do it at the top end as well. But really, this run is all about beating those poor teams. And I think they'll do that here. How do they do it? Comfortably. I think they will score a couple of goals in this game. I think they'll be smarting from that poor performance they put in at Selhurst Park a couple of weeks ago. And that was the only game, I think, in about 2 months where Marcus Rashford hasn't scored. So if Marcus Rashford is fit for this game, and we're led to believe he was just rested for the game in midweek, then that's what you're looking at here. You've got to look at Marcus Rashford to score and Man United to win. Even without Eriksen, I think Fred and Casemiro will be fine in central midfield for a few weeks before Sabitzer, if he's good enough, gets a few games. I think going forward, Eriksen will be a loss, a significant one too. But in this game, I don't see it. Rashford, 6 shots on target in 3 games, 3 goals from outside the area. It's all about Marcus Rashford. He's 2.5 to get 2 shots on target. He's 9-1 to score from outside the area. Man United win. Man United win without conceding. Man United win both halves, and Marcus Rashford scores and has at least 2 shots on target.
All right, Onofrios is going for Man United to win 2-0 for this game. It's going to be interesting, and I'm looking forward to watching this Man United-Barcelona that we have in a couple of weeks. Next one is Wolves-Liverpool. If we were talking about the problems for Chelsea also to qualify for the next Champions League, the same we can say about Liverpool, also out of the FA Cup. In 2 weeks, they have Real Madrid in the Champions League, and they've been awful playing away in the Premier League. Only 2 victories, and they are going to Wolverhampton. Tom, out of the bottom 3. They won the winnables in the last 5, at least, West Ham and Everton. I don't know if they place this Liverpool as a winnable one. I guess it is.
Yeah, has to be. Has to be. You know, if you're going to play Liverpool, this is the kind of time you want to play them, when they're all over the place. They're weak at the moment, and the injury list as ever is massive. And another window has gone by, and they haven't replaced people in key positions. Just another miscellaneous forward has come in. I mean, look, Wolves done a lot of business. I couldn't tell you who's going to improve the team and who's not going to. I think Craig Dawson is quite a smart move in terms of central defensive cover, because apart from the 2 that are played every week, Collins and Kilman, there's not a great deal of depth there. I think that they're still lacking a real top-level central striker. I know a few players have come in who can do the same floating around the front line roles, but I still don't think there is a centre forward there that I'd be particularly scared of. We will see. I don't know enough about João Gomes and 1 or 2 others, so we'll find out. But I still think at the moment, on paper, they're lacking in that position. There will be issues with scoring goals at Wolves, as there has been all season. So I don't see a great deal of improvement under Lopetegui, I've got to say. There are a couple of decent new manager bounce results, but they're still a poor team who play very negative football, who don't create a lot of chances. Only really the form of Daniel Podence has got them out of the mess they've recently been in. I'd still be very concerned about Wolves if I was a supporter of Wolverhampton Wanderers. In terms of Liverpool, I mean, their away form this season has been shocking. Absolutely shocking. 2 wins in 9, 5 defeats, losing at Brentford pitifully recently, losing at Brighton in the league last time out. I know they're good mid-table teams, but poor performances in those games as well. And it's always worth doing the injury listers too. No Luis Diaz. No. Did you know Artemelo signed for him? What? Apparently he's still there. It's somewhat incredible. He's listed as unavailable. A sign of how bad the transfer business has recently been. No Jota, Konate injured, Firmino injured, Van Dijk injured, Carvalho injured, and even Nat Phillips, who might be on the cover, is injured as well. So all sorts of issues there. Cody Gakpo hasn't done much. Doesn't look like he's taken immediately to the Premier League. So this might be the hardest one to call of the weekend, because at 4-1, that ain't bad, that ain't bad for Wolverhampton Wanderers. If they get the wind in their sails and score the opening goal, you can see Liverpool having another Nottingham Forest kind of day, where they're just struggling to find some rhythm. Andy Robertson said against Brighton last week, we knew the problems. We had 2 weeks to work on them, and we got worse. So I wouldn't be confident betting on Liverpool, not at those prices. I wouldn't necessarily go for 4-1 Wolves, though I can appreciate why people watching might have a flutter on it. I think draw at 3.6, 3.8, up to 4 by the game is quite interesting. Oh, I don't know. This is the one I'd probably avoid the weekend. I think Liverpool will probably win. My gut tells me Liverpool win. I can see maybe double chancing it with a draw, but I'm not sure that will help your odds a great deal. Maybe flutter on Wolves. I don't know. If you're a daring character, this could be the big upset of the weekend.
But low scoring, I guess.
Keep low. If Wolves win, it'll be under 2.5. If Wolves win, frankly, it'll be under 1.5. It'll be 1-0. They won't score more than that. If you start getting above 2.5, that means Liverpool win the game. That means Mo Salah's found his shooting boots. That could be the difference. So it's a big Liverpool win or it's a tight Wolves win.
Mam Spaghetti is asking you if you think Liverpool can still make up to the top 4.
I don't think so personally. I don't think they'll make it because I don't think this is a Liverpool side like we've seen in recent years who go on a run. If you look at the teams that are outside the top 4 now as well, I'd be more inclined to see Chelsea go on a 5-10 game winning run. At the moment, I just don't see it with Liverpool. There are so many issues all over the field. And if they splutter through to game 24, 25, I think the gap will be too big. Plus, the current top 4, I think the current top 4 is pretty decent. So you've got to have them slip and Liverpool go on a run. I don't see it.
10 points away from the top 4. One of these teams that are in Champions League spots is Newcastle, 3rd in the standings. They are going to play a final in the League Cup. And now they play the late kickoff on Saturday against West Ham. We saw 3 goalless draws for Newcastle in the last 4 games. And I'm not sure if you are hopeful after the latest results of West Ham in the FA Cup and also beating Everton at home.
Not particularly, but let's start with Newcastle because it is really interesting how the goals have dried up. I think that 1 goal scored in 4 in the league is concerning. Alexander Isak looks like he'll probably miss this game as well. Picked up a suspected concussion in the Carabao Cup in midweek. Bruno Guimaraes will be out of this game suspended, sent off in that game in midweek. So all sorts of issues there for Newcastle United. I think maybe their best player missing as well is a bit of a boost for West Ham. And, the question becomes who is going to score the goals. Callum Wilson has a fantastic record against West Ham, by the way, for Bournemouth and for Newcastle United. So look at that market. Some players just fancy scoring against some teams, and you can see that happening. So Wilson scores and a Newcastle win would be right up on my agenda this weekend. But that's the big concern for Newcastle. They do not concede goals. Very solid, as we know. Defence very strong. Best keeper in the league at the moment. And they don't take a great deal of risks in games. And I think this will be very similar to the Fulham game we saw and the Leeds game we saw at St James's Park, where West Ham will defend well. West Ham are a good defensive team, by the way. Just 25 goals conceded in the Premier League this season, best in the bottom half, and I think the 4th best defence in the league. So I think West Ham, you could see how they're going to try and survive and hope the offense starts doing something. So I think this will be a struggle for Newcastle. If they score, I think they win. If they score is a huge element of this game. If West Ham can keep them out for the first 20 minutes, this might be another long afternoon for Newcastle. So if you're looking for a Newcastle win and go under 1.5. Keep it real tight. Under 2.5 if you want, but I think I can see them winning this 1-0. And West Ham lose a lot of games 1-0. Wolverhampton Wanderers, Everton, Forest, when they lose tight, and they lose tight because they can't score. West Ham are interesting because they have the best squad, in my opinion, in the bottom half of the Premier League. They shouldn't be anywhere near a relegation battle. And the win against Everton was almost like the old West Ham, which was score a goal, sit deep, hit them on the break. That's something they've not tried to do this season. But when they have done it, they've actually won the game. So I wonder whether they go back to playing that way moving forward for the rest of this season. Kurt Zuma's missing, so the worst player I've ever seen in my life, Thilo Kehrer, will come into the back 3 because Craig Dawson's been sold. He's got to do something, right? Moyes is stuck with him, and they like to play 3 at the back. They're going to continue with 3 at the back, so they have to come in. The good news is Naya Faguer, who's an exceptional player, is now fit, and I think he made the difference between beating Everton and not beating Everton last week. So a back 3 of Agbona, Aguirre, and Kehrer with Emerson and Soufal. That's reasonably strong, I think. Plus Rice, Paqueta in midfield. It'll be Bowen. It'll be Antonio and Benrahma. Maybe Fornals for Benrahma, but that's about it. West Ham look a little bit more settled. It'll be solid. It'll be unspectacular. They'll try and give Newcastle the ball, which I don't think Newcastle will cope with that well, considering Bruno Guimaraes is not playing. If West Ham are to win, they'll keep Newcastle out and nick a goal. So 1-0 either way, I think is quite interesting. West Ham at 5-1 is actually reasonably interesting here. I wouldn't touch it because of West Ham's form. I wouldn't be stunned to see it happen, but I think low scoring. The draw at 3.75 is really interesting. A 0-0 draw screams to me in this game. You can get 0-0 for 10-1. So I'll personally be looking at draw, 0-0 draw at 10-1, or Newcastle win this in a low scoring game.
Well, Etio is telling us also halftime draw could be another
Yeah.
option, of course. And Adam is going for West Ham because they are more rested after Newcastle having these midweek games
The West Ham
in
played on
the.
Monday, so let's not go wild.
Well, yeah, that's true. But it was not a semi-final. We have to say that.
That's true. That's true.
That's true. Yeah, and two more games, Tom, on Sunday, also for the relegation battle. In this case, we have Nottingham Forest Leeds. Forest 4 points away from the bottom three. Leeds only 1 point away from the relegation spots. And Forest, they are good when they are playing at home. Actually, no defeats in the last 6 home games. This one is tough as well, as we can see in the odds. Basically the same for Forest victory or for an away win. It pays exactly the same.
Yeah, it's a toss-up, this one, for obvious reasons. I'm surprised to see it as tight as that, though, considering Forest, the home form you've mentioned there, unbeaten in 6, 3 wins in that time, and played pretty well in the games they've played. And Leeds are the second worst team away from home in the league this season. They've won, I think, 1 game away from home this campaign. So I'm quite surprised to see it quite tight. I see Forest as favourites for this. Not big favourites, but I'd be expecting Leeds to be around 3s and 4s. So Leeds to win in this game, that's not a tempting amount of money at all to bet on it. At around 4-1, I'd look at it. Around this, no. Look, Forest, who knows at this moment in time with their team? Once again, they've invested in the January transfer window. I assume that Keylor Navas is going to play in goal with Dean Henderson missing, which is a wild thing to say. Brought in from Paris Saint-Germain. I assume John Joe Shelby will come into midfield if he's fit, which I think is quite a smart signing. I assume Chris Wood's going to play up front. So already it's a very different team to the Forest team we were talking about a few weeks ago. I think Brennan Johnson's hit a good run of form. I think that Ryan Yates, a bit of a clogger in midfield, but brings heart to the team. I think that's made a big difference. And I think the City ground makes a big difference too. That home form is how they're going to stay in this league, winning home games against the rubbish teams. And Leeds, I mean, look, Jesse Marsh is obviously trying to buy every American he possibly can. He wants people who buy into what he's doing. And I think Weston McKennie is actually quite a shrewd signing. I think Rocker in midfield alongside Tyler Adams worked great start of the season. I think as it's gone on, I think you can clearly see Tyler Adams is a really good player. Rocker alongside him, I think, has got things to learn in this division. And I think when one of them is not playing to their best, there hasn't really been a replacement. Click has gone to somewhere in MLS. I'm not sure what club he's gone to yet. So that's a smart signing. I expect McKennie, who's been doing well for Juve, to come straight in midfield alongside Tyler Adams, 2 of the 3 that played central midfield for the USA during the World Cup. Will that make a difference to the way they play? No. It'll be all action. This will be end-to-end. I can see goals, thrills, spills. And I can see here Leeds trying to put on a similar performance to what they did at Newcastle, being unable to do so. Forest scored the first goal. It then opens up massively, and then it's a toss-up. I would suggest here, look at the draw market and both teams to score at 4-1. Both teams to score brings it up a little bit higher. Look at Forest scoring the opening goal. If that happens, I think it becomes a bit of a slobber knocker. But I would go Forest win, both teams score, but certainly look at that draw market, both teams score.
Both teams to score seems nice, and in random signings in this winter transfer window, I think we should put Keylor Navas to Nottingham Forest if someone missed that one. And he sees the Costa Rican in the Premier League, where here it is, from Madrid to Paris and then to England. And we have one more game, good one, Tottenham Man City, always very good. This Tottenham Man City, we saw it also a couple of weeks ago, and the Spurs, they were this close to get points from Manchester. And we have this City. I guess we were also very surprised, all of us, seeing Cancelo out of the team, having apparently some problems with Pep Guardiola. Wow, this one is going to be a tough one for Man City.
Oh, this is difficult. This is real difficult. Last season, as we know, Tottenham won both games. You mentioned the meeting a couple of weeks ago that Spurs could easily have won that game. Fell apart a little bit at the end, but they had the chances to take the lead as they had in the game in the second half. Could have made it 3-3. So, really interesting. Look, for Tottenham in recent times, actually, it would be worth noting first that Antonio Conte is not on the sideline for this game. Had a gallbladder issue this week, and so had an operation. So he's not going to be on the sideline. That could make a difference. His presence on the sideline often does make a difference for Tottenham Hotspur. But they're playing awfully. Like I went to the Fulham game a couple of weeks ago. They won it thanks to Harry Kane scoring a great individual goal, but the overall performance was woeful from Tottenham. And that's been true for a long, long time now. They don't like the ball. It'll help them playing in this game because City will want the ball. I don't see the signings they've made in January as particularly improving the squad. Danjuma can replace Son if Son is continuing to be off form. Pedro Porro is a step up from Matt Doherty, who played in that position, absolutely. But they've still got the issue of who plays on the other side. There's still the issue of the back three. There's still the issue if Bentancur, who is fit, drops out of the team, who comes in, Bissouma, Skip. Like, they're not good enough. It's still about getting Harry Kane the ball in the opposition half and scoring a goal. If they do that, there's every chance they could win this game. For Manchester City, it's not the Man City of old, but already beaten Tottenham 4-2 in this run. Thrashed Wolves last time out. They've lost João Cancelo, sure, and I think that's a big blow. But if you don't buy into Pep Guardiola, you don't want to play for him, then he bombs you out. They could lose 3 or 4 players easily, City, and still have the best squad in the league. And I think that remains the case. It's a tricky one. It's a toss-up. I think Tottenham at 5-1, which they're around, 4.6, 4.85 to 1. I think that's quite nice, really, considering the way they've played against Tottenham, against Man City. You know what they'll do. Low block, hit on the break, hopefully take the chance from Son or Kane when it comes, then do it again and again and again. If they can keep City out, they can win this game. So if you've got money to burn this weekend, Tottenham at 5-1 to win might be worth a flutter because of their brilliant recent record against City. Even when they've lost, they've scored goals against them and made it really interesting. If City score the first goal, it's over. There's no way Tottenham will get back in the game, I think, if City scored that first goal. I think you look at the Haaland market as ever. 3 shots on target is 4-1. Haaland has got 4 Premier League hat-tricks in 19 games, 6 shots on target in 2 Premier League games. So it's always a pretty safe bet to go Haaland shots on target. Look for 3 of those at 4-1. At that point, I leave it in all your capable hands. I don't know. I still think that City will win. I think City will win every single game, and I think Haaland will score. And if you do that every week, you're going to win 30 bets this season. You would have won plenty of bets already. But I don't discount the Tottenham market, and that will continue to go up before the game. And Tottenham win, and Kane scores. You get that around 10s. I wouldn't discount it. So at the moment, there's your options.
And both teams to score, I guess. Most of the people also are backing both teams to score, since Tottenham usually hurts Man City. A speedy recovery, of course, to Antonio Conte, who had surgery in Italy. And we have Brendan telling us that City win this game. Let's see. And they can keep the fight with Arsenal on top of the table. Well, Tom, after an FA Cup weekend, we are back with the Premier League. Tell me your safe bet for this match day.
Yeah, there's a few this weekend that drew my attention, but I just think Everton haven't improved their squad at all during this window. And even though I think Sean Dyche is a good manager, it might be too late already for Everton. Arsenal going there as league leaders will win. So Arsenal beat Everton is my safe bet.
Not bad odds, top of the table, visiting a bottom 3 team, and odds are around 1.5. And your ACCA?
3-team ACCA this week, 2 wins in it. Arsenal and Man United to win. They're big bets this weekend. But to spice it up and bring you to just around 4-1, just under, also go for Newcastle West Ham to finish under 2.5 goals. Neither team score many goals at the moment. Neither team concede many goals at the moment. That's got 0-0 written all over it, or a 1-0 win for Newcastle. So that's my third in the trio.
Great. This is a treble. Thank you, Tom. See you next week. Thanks, everyone, of course, for watching and for following the Premier League with us. Just don't forget and like us and subscribe, of course, to our channel to see us next week. Tom, bye-bye.